Hey guys, today is Tuesday's reading for The Darkest Hour. We're on chapters 6 and 7. And so remember that they had their friends that were from the same agency that got killed, and one is captured. And so two of them left to go save the one Delphine who's captured, and the other two went to go to this place to try to kind of complete this mission that was failed. And so that's where we're at. So today is a little bit longer, so bear with me, but we're gonna get through it. So all right, chapter 6. After the hatch closes, Sabine marches to the side entrance with her powdered chin pointed upward. If Harkin's warning has rattled her, she doesn't show it. She's far too busy scowling in my direction, obviously irritated that it is our mission instead of hers alone. Are you coming? She taps her velvet shoes against the floorboards. Or do you need another minute to say your goodbyes? I wouldn't mind giving her a great big shove right about now. I'm sorry, I didn't realize that wishing Tilly well was a capital offense. She sniffs. It's likely best if you two don't get too close. I don't remember asking for your input. Take it or leave it, but war is cruel. She whirls around and unlocks the door. Why do you think Harkin keeps us all at arm's length? I open my mouth to tell her that I know full well war is cruel, but it doesn't matter because she's already shut the door. Calm and collected, I tell myself. Dealing with Sabine's sourness is a small price to pay versus desk duty, although this Dorner fellow might be worth the headache brewing at my temples. The June sun follows us as we head to Metro, leaving a damp handprint on the backs of our necks. I scour the streets for any glimpse of the Nazis, but I see only a long line of Parisians queuing at a bakery. Their faces sag and their hands clench like claws around their ration cards, which is smart because you never know when the thief might try to snatch your ticket from you. I doubt my parents would recognize the Paris I'm standing in. My father was raised in the city. My mother moved here when she aged out of the orphanage. She found work at a patisserie in Passy, where she'd sweep the floors and wipe the glass display and protect the famous Marie Antoinette macaroons bursting with raspberry and rose cream when you bit into them. A few times she even got to taste them. Nowadays, you'd be lucky to come by a full cup of sugar. Even if you did, you'd have to trade your grandma's china set for it. And think, okay, so China's really expensive too. And so think about for a cup of sugar, you'd have to trade some expensive things. So sugar is really, really, really rare. When our car arrives at the St. Lazare station, I expect Sabine to lose me in the crowd, but she sticks next to me like a bramble on a sock. She takes my elbow and guides me across the busy road that's filled with bicycles, many of them with suitcases balanced on the handlebars. Paris is wartime taxi service. The station bustles with a swarm of people today, including Nazis. The soldiers stop a group of passengers who arrived in Paris to demand to search their bags for black market contraband: coal, tobacco, fresh meat. An old woman cries when they discover the eggs she'd hidden in her purse. I can't blame her for it. I haven't tasted eggs in weeks. Sabine leads us to the ticket counter where we queue for over an hour with our other passengers, some hoping to head east to Verdun, while others are hoping to travel south, home of the French government. But everyone knows that the Nazis are the ones pulling the strings across the country. The Premier Pétain is nothing but a dressed-up marionette. The marionette's like a puppet. Using a fake franc, we purchased 2 tickets for the late morning train. The earlier one has been canceled due to track work, and so Fifine and I settle on an open bench, pretending to laugh at each other's jokes and sharing a pouch of dried plums that Laurent left for us. Not long after we're seated, Sabine dips her chin towards me. Her expression is as calm as the sign on a hot day. Remember, the sign is the river. But she whispers daggers into my ear. Over there, 5 o'clock. See 'em? A shiver slithers down my back. I pretend to check the clasp on my shoe as I search for him that Sabine mentioned. There he is, a Nazi officer. He's staring at us. That's my alarm for to reach you guys. Sorry. The Nazi officer. He's staring at us. Rather, he's staring at me. We should move, I said quietly. Do you recognize him? I don't offer an answer right away. Could the father have turned on me after all? But he knew me as a prim and proper sister, not as Florent. I don't think so, but we should leave. We should leave to be safe. With my Valaz in one hand and my guitar case in the other, we head to the train platform, hoping to lose the officer in the crowd, but he weaves towards us. Worse, he's increased his speed. I search for possible exits with my pulse stammering all the way. You head to the restroom, I whisper to Sabine, and I'll continue down the platform. If he arrests me, too late. Mademoiselle, 1 minute. The soldier calls out in passable French. He reaches me within seconds and gestures at my guitar case. Is there a problem? I banish the quiver in my voice and bat my lashes. Would you like to see my ticket? The soldier surprises me by offering me a grin so white that I wonder if he's gargling with bleach. Do you play, mademoiselle, the guitar? It takes me a few seconds to realize he doesn't want to search my bags. He just wants to talk to me about my guitar of all things. Not very well, do you? Guitar is a hobby of mine. I have 3 back in Munich. He combs back his golden hair, and I have no doubt that he is a real dish back in Germany, since he's got a handsome face. But I wish he'd leave us alone. Fortunately, our train has arrived early. It's pulling into the station as we speak. I'm afraid we have to catch our train, I say. This one here? He juts a thumb at it and his grin widens. It's mine as well. I mask my disappointment. How lucky for us. I'm spending the day in Cherbourg. I was waiting for another fellow in my regiment to join me, but I think he's gotten lost. It's no matter, though. He leans closer. I can always make new friends. I almost groan. I'm Captain Oster, he continues, but do call me Lothar. And you two are? I'm Fifine, and this is my friend Florent. Sabine hugs my waist like we're buddies, and secretly jabs a finger into my ribs. I know what she's trying to tell me. The train is here, and we need to get away. I'm afraid we better get in line. But have a wonderful time in Cherbourg, I say. I stoop down to grab my things, but he swoops in and takes both my valise and my case. I absolutely insist as a gentleman. Before I can protest, he walks off with my bags and cuts through the disembarking passengers like a shark barreling through a school of minnows. I hurry after him, almost begging him to stop, but he doesn't turn around until he reaches the first-class train car. I'll return your bags, he says slyly, if you say please. So I think this guy... She's trying to go on the mission, and she's right now getting flirted with the boy. So that's kind of funny. I'd rather kick him, but instead I force a smile. Please, I say, sweet as Marie Antoinette's my mother told me about. He holds out my guitar case, but before I can close my hand around the handle, he snatches it back and laughs. You naughty thing, Sabine says, catching up to us. Her tone is playful, but I can see the irritation in her eyes. You're going to make us miss the train. Don't you worry, I'll make sure that you won't. He motions to the ticket collector to help with our bags. When the ticket collector points out that Sabine and I don't have first-class tickets, Captain Oster scoffs and tells us to climb aboard anyways. Forget about those dirty dregs down in second class. Women like you deserve to travel in style. He winks and heads up into the first-class car with my case in tow. Get on the train, Sabine whispers behind me. I throw her a look. With him? He has our case. Besides, he has taken a liking to you. We can use that to get information from him. Before I can protest, she nudges me onto the step. Now go. We don't want to miss the train. Reluctantly, I enter the car, and I see why Nazis have claimed the first-class seats all for themselves. The floors are freshly cleaned, and there's plenty of space to stretch out your legs. Quite the luxury compared to the lower-class cars, where you're usually squeezed next to the man who sneezes on you. Captain Oyster has already removed his jacket and beckons to us from the back of the car. He ushers Sabine into the seat by the window, and how fortunate for me, he guides me into the seat right next to his. After I get settled, he plucks a silver flask from his pocket and hands it to me. To new friends, he says, gesturing for me to take a sip. I'm not in the mood for whatever he's offering, but I pretend to take a taste. To new friends, I murmur. For the next hour, Captain Oster swigs from his flask and blathers on about nightclubs and how he's visited in Paris until he's falling fast asleep on my shoulder. While he snores and Sabine nods off herself, I watch the train chug towards Cherbourg, relieved that I can finally shed the fake smile I've been wearing since we left Paris. Soon I'm greeted by the bright green fields and a ceiling of cotton candy clouds, so pretty that it makes me forget about our mission for a moment. But I'm tugged back to reality when Sabine starts mumbling in her sleep. She frowns. Jean-Luc, she whispers, then again louder. Jean-Luc, be careful. She's muttering nonsense now, but soon she might mention something about headquarters or our mission. I nudge her foot with my shoe until she stirs. You were talking in your sleep, I tell her. Oh, she blinks really hard. I see. I press a finger to my lips to quiet her because I don't want to wake up Captain Oster. But it doesn't do any good. Our train pulls into the next station. He snorts awake. Where are we? He asks with a yawn. Nearly to Cherbourg, sleepy one, I tease. I slept for I slept for that long. Must have been the brandy. He looks ready to plop his head back onto my shoulder again, but he straightens when he sees someone behind us. Ah, Frederick. Where have you been hiding all this time? Come meet my new friends. Footsteps approach us, quick and crisp, down the carpeted path. Lovely, another Nazi to contend with. I look up, ready to gush about how wonderful it is to meet one of the captain's colleagues, but my blood freezes when I see the man standing above me. I know him. We just met yesterday, in fact. Sweat gathers at the base of my collar. I tell myself that my eyes have been playing tricks on me, but there's no denying it. It's Lieutenant Schuster, all right. Remember the lieutenant that was mad and wanted to question her, and they're like, "Oh, don't worry, she doesn't need to be questioned." Well, he's back. I pin a smile to my face in spite of the gymnastics my pulse is performing. The chances of this happening must be 1 in a million. I wish I could tap out a warning to Sabine in Morse code, but there's no way to reach her elbow. At least Schuster doesn't seem to recognize me yet. I cross my legs and let the sheath of my wig fall over my face, obscuring his view of me. How do you do? Schuster hardly glances at me before focusing on Captain Oster. I thought we had agreed to meet in the dining car. I've been waiting there the entire time. Oh, don't be like that. You found me now, didn't you? Captain Oster leans back in his seat and half onto me, while he tosses Schuster the flask. Loosen up, my friend. We finally have a day off, and you're acting like Major Barling is breathing down our necks. Enjoy the company. He tilts his head towards Sabine. Enjoy the pretty view. Schuster's annoyed expression sweetens slightly as he takes in Sabine. To her, he asks, "It's nice to meet you." "Fifine," she says, holding out her hand to Schuster to kiss it, which he does gladly. "You're more than welcome to join us, but my friend and I must take a quick powder first. Won't you excuse us?" Before the boys can answer, Sabine whisks me towards the bathroom, with her hips swishing as she goes, and more than one soldier's head bobs up to stare at her. So very typical. We swish inside the cramped space, and Sabine gets to work applying a new layer of lipstick. "What's the matter with you?" she says. "You went almost white when that Schuster fellow joined us." I flush again. I didn't tell her about Schuster. I don't need her wagging a finger at me. She needs to know the truth. I ran into Schuster last night on our way to meet Trevert. She utters a curse so ugly that Harkin would blush. He saw you? Not me, Sister Marchand. He stopped me while I was heading into the church. She braces her hand against the small sink and sighs. "Do you know the danger you've put us in?" "Me? This isn't my fault. How was I supposed to know he'd end up on this train?" "Hush now. We don't want the Germans overhearing us." I want to shout that she's the one hurling accusations at me, but I sew my lips shut. Sparring with Sabine won't keep us safe. "It's risky enough that we're talking in here. We have to change cars," I say. "That would look even more suspicious. If he recognizes me, though, we're done for. Then you better convince him that you truly are Florent, and not anyone else." She huffs and unbuttons the top. She huffs and fixes she huffs and fixes her blouse. "I'll do what I can to distract him, but if he..." "Here's advice," she says, like she always does. Then she hands me a few tissues. You've been given sorry. I'm trying to edit some of this. This is not easy. Okay. We return to our seats. Sabine employs everyone of her own. Employs everyone of her own as. Sorry. So okay. Of her. Okay, yep. Did you miss us? She says. Schuster goes a little slack-jawed, but it isn't long before his gaze crawls towards me once again. My cheeks warm, and I pretend to giggle at some joke that Captain Oster is telling. "You were gone for nearly an eternity," he says, pulling me close towards him. I could smell the brandy on his breath. Beyond the window, I notice our train pulling into the station. Thankfully, it won't be long until we reach Cherbourg. If I can keep Schuster at bay until then, we'll be fine. If not, Captain Oster prattles on about his plans for dinner, but Schuster ignores him and leans forward, a hard look in his eyes. "Have we met before?" he asks me. My heart jumps. "Have we? No, I don't think so." "You look familiar. I'm good with faces." "That he is," said Captain Oster. "Frederick has one of those, photographic memories. Just my luck, I think. But I keep playing my part. Perhaps you attended a club where I've sang. Lieutenant, are you familiar with the Le Grand Duke or Ciro's?" Oh, Ciro, Sabine jumps in. She must have heard the accusation in Schuster's tone, and now she's trying to draw his attention away from me. We should go there, Lieutenant. We'll have so much fun. What do you think? Schuster ignores the bait and stares at me. I swear we've met before. Florent often gets mistaken for others, Sabine says, hooking her arm around Schuster's. Why, just yesterday a girl stopped us on the street because she thought looked exactly like her sister. Remember that? She laughs, but for some reason Schuster shoves her away from him. What did you say? What did you say? He says to Sabine. She falters. Whatever do you mean? I heard you. His head snaps towards mine. Sister. My pulse stops. Schuster's spine tightens like a tuned guitar string, and Sabine's eyes widen at her mistake. Schuster shoots out of his seat and drags me out of my own by the wrist. I knew I'd seen you before. I turn my frantic eye towards Captain Oster. Maybe Schuster will listen to him. Please, Lothar, your friend is mistaken. Tell him. Captain Oster sloppily tries to rise to his feet. Wait one moment there, Frederick. That's no way to treat our new friend. Open your eyes. These girls aren't your friends, you fool, Schuster yells. The entire train car is now staring at us. Our cover is completely blown. The train begins moving again, causing Schuster to wobble. I break free from his grip, but he's quick to shout, Detain her! The soldiers erupt from their seats. Two of them stalk towards me with their hands on their holstered pistols, while others shout at Sabine to hold up her hands. Close off the exits, Schuster cries. I search for Sabine and she nods at me. There's only one choice left. I duck for one of the soldiers' outstretched hands and dive the heel of my palm into his nose. Blood pours out of his nostrils and I hear him curse, but a broken nose won't be good enough to stop him. I ram my elbow into his gut. When he stumbles back, I clip him on the head with one fierce kick, knocking him unconscious. Next to me, Sabine punches Schuster in the throat. She's pretty fierce. I see a little satisfied smirk on her face as she brings him to his knees. He's crumpled on the floor, but before she can finish him off with a single-shot pistol from her blouse, a soldier charges towards her, and he receives a bullet in the forehead instead. The Nazis open fire. The case, Sabine hisses at me. I leap for the guitar case and throw it open, but Captain Oster yanks me by the arm before I can reach the secret compartment. I'm ready to punch him, but he says, Who are you? Before I can respond, a gurgling sound comes out of his mouth, followed by a splatter of blood. The drops spray onto my blouse, and then his whole body careens forward, tumbling next to my feet. There was a bullet hole in the back of his head. I look up to find Sabine tossing one pin aside and pulling out another. Move, she says. There's no time to gape at what's left of Captain Oster. While we dodge gunfire, I fire off both of my single-shot pins before grabbing the two loaded pistols from the case. I toss one to Sabine. We take aim and hit a soldier in the chest, but their shots keep coming, whistling closer and closer to our ears. We have to get off, I shout over the gunfire. The train is picking up speed, and if we don't escape soon, we'll break our legs trying to make a jump as the Nazis will happily arrest us. And I'm sure they won't reset our broken bones. Get the tear gas ready, Sabine says. I'll cover you. There's no time to discuss other options. I dart for the back of the cart, but a soldier's fingers claw at my ankle, trying to trip me. I yank over the sheathed dagger at my thigh, and I slash open his knuckles. He cries out and lets me go. I sprint down the walkway, leaving behind my guitar case and the valise full of floret silks. Bolting through the door, I scurry to the narrow vestibule between the train cars. I use one hand to fumble for my tear gas pen, while the other's hand tries to fire the remaining rounds to cover Sabine. A heartbeat later, she hurls herself through the door, landing hard next to me with her purse bundled around her arm. Now, she says. I yank off the pen cap, which sets off the canister of gas inside of it. I toss it back into the first-class car. A white gas spews forth, and I hear soldiers screaming and coughing before I slam the door behind us. Tear gas should buy us some time, but how much of it I don't know. A few minutes at most. This way, Sabine says. For once I listen to her without protest. I hike up my skirt to free my legs as we speed up into the next car, leaping over the surprised passengers and their luggage in the aisle. When we reach the end of the train, I hear a faint shout behind us. They're coming, I yell to Sabine. Two soldiers are stumbling toward us, coughing from the gas, but pursuing us nonetheless. I throw my dagger at the first, and the blade hits home, plunging into his collarbone. He falls to his knees with a scream, but the other soldier merely leaps over him and keeps coming for us. To the back, Sabine tells me. We hurtle through the doors that lead outside. The wind snatches at our hair and tosses strands of our wigs into our face. I tear the whole thing off and let it fly out of my hands. The ground beneath us is a dizzy blur, and I remember the L pill in my pocket, but we can still make it off the train. Sabine pushes me forward until my stomach hits a metal railing, the last barrier between me and the tracks. Don't lock your knees, she tells me. Wait, there's no time. She turns back to fire around and I squash the alarm lodged in my throat. Calm and collected, calm and collected. Oh, never mind. I climb over the rail. The wind blasts against my body, stealing tears from my eyes, and even though I haven't done it in months, I make the sign of a cross. Hail Mary, full of grace, I whisper. With that prayer on my lips, I jump. Wow, that's an intense chapter. I think I'm going to stop there for today. So, I will come back tomorrow and read you the other chapter. I'll probably read 3 chapters tomorrow. I don't know. But I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I will see you tomorrow.